Tennessee WildCast is live on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. I'm Jason Harmon, and in studio today we got Miss Amy Snider Spencer with me. She's going to be helping co-host today, and then no relation to her, Shawn Snider. So glad to have both of you with us today. And
yeah,
we're
he
gonna
spells his name wrong.
Is it wrong?
Yeah, wrong.
Okay. S-N-Y or something like that?
It's S-N-Y.
Okay. But today is all about snakes. And we're excited.
It is, if I can get through it without losing my voice.
Yeah, hang in there. Don't wear out until it's over. But we're going to be talking about snakes today. We're pretty excited to have Shawn with us. He's been doing some studies on pygmy rattlesnakes and a lot of cool information to talk about today. And Amy's been out with him taking pictures and following him while he's been on his,
it's been an adventure.
on his studies. So
yeah, I'm ready to go every time he calls. So.
But we're going to hit a few things before we get started. I want to highlight some do's and don'ts.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way.
Amy, she's real strong on this, and I am too. I don't think we should kill snakes, but it's illegal to kill snakes or take snakes in Tennessee.
Yes, it is, and we always get comments when we do a snake post. Kill them. It's illegal. They all have their place in the ecosystem. Let's not just jump to conclusions and kill everything.
Yeah. If you don't bother them, they probably won't bother you.
And it's true in these snakes because we have been literally right on top of them and they have not struck at us one time or anything.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you've been right there with them, and we're going to see some pictures today and hear more about this. And then one other thing we want to hit on, kind of that same line, that Tennessee's the only state that protects the pygmy rattler.
And Shawn, tell us why.
Yeah, so in Tennessee, they are a threatened species because we only have about 30 records, and they have a very narrow range. That's why specifically Tennessee decided to threaten them or make them protected. So.
Okay. All right. And then in Tennessee, we have four. And I thought it was three. Before we started the show, I was thinking three. So I've been corrected, and I've made a note, and I've recorded that in my brain here, so I'll know that in the future. There are four poisonous. Venomous. There,
Venomous.
I said it again.
Species of snakes.
Venomous snakes in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So those are the cottonmouth, which is also called a water moccasin, the timber rattler, the pygmy rattler, and the copperhead.
Yes. And you said all four have been found in your study area.
Yes, we have found all four in our study area, which is actually really unique.
Well, I know I found that one timber real close to my foot the other day. So, yeah.
So anyway, tell us about yourself, Shawn. Where are you from, and how'd you get into snakes? And you're going to Tennessee Tech, is that right?
Tennessee State University.
Tennessee State, okay. Yeah. But tell us about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. But so I'm from South Central Pennsylvania. I was just telling you guys earlier, I grew up between two cornfields. And so I grew up in a very rural area. I went to a very small high school. And then I grew up always in the outdoors. My dad's an outdoorsman, so I was obviously an outdoorsman. I love hiking, fishing, rock climbing, anything outdoors, anything that gets me in touch with nature. And for my undergrad, I went to Penn State University and studied wildlife and fisheries sciences. And then I got my master's here. I'm getting my master's here at Tennessee State University under the advisement of Dr. Bill Sutton in environmental sciences, working with the pygmy rattlesnake.
Cool.
And he's already been accepted for a PhD program.
Yes, so that's actually, I haven't told a lot of people that yet.
Oh, yeah,
but
sorry.
That's fine.
I spilled the beans.
That's fine. But I have accepted a PhD offer at the University of Maine working with wetland-dependent ecosystems.
Wow,
yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. So did you grow up hunting and fishing in the rural areas there in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lot different than here in Tennessee, but yeah, so... Yeah, I grew up hunting with my dad a lot. We hunted a lot in northern Pennsylvania where the mountains are, but yeah, I hunted a lot, I fished a lot of fun, but it's a lot different here than Tennessee, I'll say that.
So how'd you get into snakes?
So that's a long story. So it has to start when I studied abroad in South Africa, my sophomore year at Penn State. So I studied abroad in South Africa. I went to the country with 12 other students, and during that time, I got to do biodiversity surveys with a bunch of different biologists in South Africa itself. And we got to do like drift fencing, we did small mammal trapping, but what really caught my attention was we were able to catch some really cool venomous species like the Cape Cobra or a puff adder, which are two crazy venomous species in Africa. And it was just amazing to see those species and to understand that this species has really evolved and they're really interesting and people don't appreciate them. And so I think that was my first taste of it. And then it kind of just evolved as I went through my whole undergrad career.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. All the discussions we've had, we didn't talk about that, yeah.
It was a secret.
So today we're going to be talking mainly about the pygmy, and we may talk about others. We got a lot of pictures to show, but tell us about the pygmy rattlesnake. What's a typical size you're going to see here in Tennessee?
Yeah, so they're very small. They're the second smallest rattlesnake in the United States. I was originally calling them the smallest, and I got corrected one time, so I have to say they're the second smallest now. But they're originally, well, they're probably like 15 to 20 inches in length. They do get bigger, but that's the general size. They are very abundant throughout the southeastern United States. They're very abundant in Florida and in the southeastern coastal plains.
But now we had this discussion. There's 3 subspecies,
Yeah.
and we have the western, and the other 2 are found elsewhere.
Yeah, so here we have the western pygmy rattlesnake, and then we also have the dusky pygmy rattlesnake, which is kind of like in Florida and the Panhandle in the Gulf Coast. And then like in the Carolinas, we have the Carolina pygmy rattlesnake.
Okay.
So really interesting, and they vary mainly upon their coloration throughout these 3 subspecies, yeah.
And what's the main the objective of this study? What are you trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to find out?
Yeah, so they are a threatened species in the state of Tennessee, which is very out of the ordinary for the species in general. And so my job was to create a distribution model for the species, where the species occurs in the state, and then we're also going to assess how they're doing. Can we find good populations? Are they breeding? And so that was the main goals of the study.
Well, tell us about some of these pictures that we're seeing.
Now, you've been doing everything in West Tennessee, but
Yes.
we're not going to disclose any locations
Yes.
because these snakes are protected.
So this is a picture of one of my males with a large female. Amy was with me when we found this one.
This
so
is the male.
yeah, my male is the smaller guy, and the larger one is the female. These 2 were cuddling, I would say.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, that's what they call it these days. But yeah, so this was one of my males that was with a female. It's actually the second female we found him with, so he's kind of a player. But yeah, this is a really, really rare sighting because
He's a player, and he's a traveler, too.
yeah, he is. So,
He's traveled greater distance than anything that has been previously recorded, correct?
yeah, so there's only one other study I can compare when it comes to tracking pygmies to telemetry gear, and that study said that they can move as much as 100 meters, but generally they stay within 40 meters of where they were originally found. This guy is 800 meters from where I originally found him.
He's a mover, and he likes
Yeah.
to go uphill. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Here again, there's the male, and that's the female.
Yep.
So the female's on the left.
She's got a lot bigger. She was huge.
She's definitely gravid. She'll probably next year, around in September or August, she'll probably give birth to a litter.
Okay, now that's something I wanted to bring up. Now they will store the sperm over winter, and then be fertilized, and then they will give live birth in the fall next year.
Yep.
Okay. How many do they normally have?
So usually, I mean, a lot of the times we are going off of like zoo studies, but usually 7 to 12 is the common for this species.
And he was telling me actually they had one in a zoo that the female stored the sperm for 4 years?
It wasn't this species, but there is
Oh, okay.
snakes are known to store sperm for years because there's
Wow.
been things happen where they bring a wild specimen into the zoo, and then like 3 years later, it is pregnant and gives birth, and they've never cohabited it with anything. So
Crazy.
snakes can store sperm for a very long time. So yeah.
Same pair again. We just got a ton of pictures. I mean, we were there for, I don't know what, 30 minutes with
minutes,
them? Yeah.
So how many of you have you found over the course of the study so far?
So yeah, I personally have found 16,
Okay.
and we take into consideration there's only 30 records before I started. We did really well for ourselves, and then we also had 4 from our citizen science campaign that were reported to us and confirmed. So altogether, 20 new records for the state. So we're really happy with what we got.
He's
so
found
far.
a little hot spot.
Yeah.
Cool.
And in this photo, the snakes are right here.
Yep.
Oh, right below your feet
I mean,
there.
you'll see he's right on top of them, and they've never struck at us. They're not act aggressive whatsoever. They've been very calm and peaceful.
Yeah. So common misconception is these guys will always strike at you, but I can personally tell you I've stepped on timber rattlesnakes, never done anything. I've stepped over top of timbers. I've stepped over top of pygmies, and they've done anything to me. These animals are so confident in their ability to remain cryptic that they will not give away their position unless they 100% know you see them. So these species are very, very not aggressive at all.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, being that close, I'm surprised. You think could it be the weather? Has it been cooler out there? Does that slow them down? Or
So the day we were out there, it was in the 70s. I think it was the last day in the 70s.
Last warm day.
But the overall, I've tracked these guys when it was like 85 and 90 degrees in the 70s, and they've all had similar behaviors. They've just not been shown any aggression towards me at all. They notice I'm there, and like if we move some grass over their head, they'll make a little head movement, but they'll never do anything.
They flick their
Yeah.
head at you. It's kind of cool. We were
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
get a video of it. They'll track you and stuff, but they're not aggressive. And we've had cameras all around them.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Well, educate a little bit too. Can snakes? What's the vision like? Do they see or do they search with their tongue? I know I've heard that too. And
Yeah. So
how do they find their prey or sniff around? I guess you could say.
So specifically with pit vipers, which is the pygmy, a pit viper, they have these pits on their face. It helps them see thermally, so they see heat signatures.
Okay.
And so what this snake will do is it'll find a place where it thinks its prey could walk by, and it'll just coil up and remain into striking position, and then it'll wait till it comes by, and then it'll strike it. And then it can follow the heat signature from whatever the prey they struck and follow it to where it died, because the venom takes some time to kill it.
Gotcha.
So these animals are extremely well adapted to be predators.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. This next shot is you with some of the gear. Tell us about some of the gear you've been using to track these once you get the transmitters in them.
Oh, yeah. So first thing, the transmitters. So since the species is really small, we had to really be specific and be very selective at what transmitter we chose. So I called different companies to see what their selection was for snakes. A lot of them didn't have transmitters that were even small enough to get it in pygmies. And then actually the transmitter we selected was actually meant for fish. But it's very small and it lasts about 6 months. And so once we inserted these transmitters, then we were able to track these snakes. And I tracked them 3 times a week. And so I would go out there and I'll just use the telemetry gear and I go find them to the exact location and then record habitat variables and to see what kind of habitats they like and what kind of elevations they like and all those different type of habitat variables that could give us an idea of what they like.
And like right now, you were telling us that we were out there. One had already gone underground, but you were out last week, and they're all of them were underground. So so he's actually looking at their den types and if any other species are denning with them. Because we found a timber rattlesnake next to one of the pygmies on that last trip.
Oh yeah, that's something we're definitely really interested in doing. I mean, we definitely know that our male pygmy he's denning with another female pygmy. So that's really interesting and really important data for us to know. And then, like she said, we found a timber right near where one of our pygmies was. So if they're communally denning, that's really important, and that's really awesome in my opinion.
But now I will say the first day that we went out and we were just walking around looking for them, and I'm still thinking, I know they're small, but I'm still looking for a bigger snake. And I know now why we didn't find any, because it was just crazy that day. But then they got lucky in a couple of different times that they went out there, and I'm not going to say how they did it, but and then they caught them. And when he texted me and he was like, we caught like 16, and I'm like, what?
16 in one day?
No.
Okay.
But they went with him one day, and then it was like about a month before we talked, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've caught 16," and I'm like, "What? How did you catch 16?"
Yeah, we definitely got better with finding these species as the time went along, and we definitely honed in on what time of year and what time of day is best for them, and we got lucky in some instances, but we were really happy with it.
And then tell us about this one. Is this some of the same ones?
This is one of our females. Yeah, she.
And you were talking earlier. I don't mean to interrupt, but earlier you were saying this is female, this is male, this is female, and you just rattle it off.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it like that's a snake.
He knows them well.
So tell us, how do you determine if it's a female?
So I mean, I've been tracking different species of snake for the past 3-4 years of my life. So like I just pick up on the size or just certain like little attributes of the snake. So you can see it has like a solitary black dot, like a third down its body. That's how I figure out what this one is. But yeah, these snakes, when you track them 3 times a week, they kind of become recognizable, and you kind of recognize their movements and the kind of personalities they have. So that's why I kind of recognize them just by a picture.
And he got all excited when we found the second female with the male. I was like, new female.
Yeah. Hey, that's great.
Now, this is the other female.
Yep.
And she's dark. If you notice the color difference, right? The other ones are more brown. She's more of a grayish color. And I've got some other pictures of her, but I just forgot to put them in the slideshow. So.
Not as much orange on this one.
Oh, yeah. I've been trying to think about why she could be this. It could just honestly be a genetic thing. She's a little bit darker, but it could also be that she needs to shed. And that could be a factor. It's contributing to her being a little bit darker. But yeah, she's a little bit different coloration, which shows good variation, which is really, again, interesting to me. So.
And you'll notice some of them that we have pictures of are in grass, because that one male just totally blew my mind that we were finding him in an overgrown field. I always thought they were a woodland species, and you'd see them in the woods. But no, this one male, he's been hanging out in about a year-old growth field.
Yeah. It's really like, again, we know very little about this species, and it's really interesting to see how people make assumptions about, they like the upland forest or lowland forest, and then like I see 2 of my snakes in open fields for a good 2 months solid. So again, it goes to show you that species will do things that we don't expect them to do, and until we figure out what they actually do in the actual field, and you study them. So
yeah. So how long? I think when I think of the venomous snakes in Tennessee, I was thinking cottonmouth timber and copperhead, and pygmy never registered on my radar. So how long has the pygmy? Have they always been in Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, definitely they've been here for as long as as long as we've been studying snakes. I'd say.
Well, there's there's the one that was in Hardeman County, which they've been arguing if that's really a valid ID on that snake, but that's like the extreme west of their territory.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And that was what, the 90s, I want to say?
Yeah, we have records from the way back in the 1950s, and we definitely know they've been here for a lot longer than that. It's just probably about the time when people actually started doing research in Tennessee we found them, but definitely they are not very abundant in Tennessee at all.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Hence the reason why they're on the threatened list.
Yeah.
right. And here's an example of how you tag them. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I find these, I found this snake at night. So I have to tube the snake, obviously, to restrain it so it doesn't bite me. So I would put the snake in a bucket, and then I would manipulate its head into these nice acrylic tubes. And I would be able to do measurements and swab it and do all the things I need to do to make sure this species has like a transmitter in it, or if I just need to get measurements or sex it. So that's the way we were able to safely do our research on this species.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I don't see a rattler on it.
Yeah,
It does.
It's very small.
it's right there.
I think about 80% of the pygmies that I found, I could not hear any of the rattling. Only a few were big enough to
Supposedly, and when people say they've seen one, it sounds like a bee buzzing or something like that you can barely hear it. But they've never rattled at us at all. All they do is flick their head.
Yeah.
And I guess the timber rattler is the one that maybe has the longer rattles, or you can really hear it.
I've definitely
see it.
I've definitely been scared by them a few times. And
when we were looking for that one female, he was like, "Hey, we're close." So we start looking. You're looking really close to the ground, and we're in this treetop that like falling over. And I'm like, "Here it is!" And I look right by my foot, and he goes, "Oh no, that's just a juvenile timber." And I was like, So I jumped out of the way because he was already cooled back, and I was like, "Oh, this is great."
I hope you had your snake boots on, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Nope. Because they've been so mellow. But I mean, really, that's the only other species of snakes when I was there with y'all that we found. But they found others, so.
Yeah, in this one particular spot, I think I counted the other day, it was like 14 total species. And that's just for one site, that's a lot of species to detect because snakes are not easy to detect in general. So the fact that we're detecting this many and that many species is really good for this one spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And these on the bucket are the same ones, the same couple ones we've been looking at.
These are this is the male, the larger
first
one.
Female.
Yeah, the first female. This is the first ones. This was the lady he chose first, and so
that we know about.
That we know about, yeah. So like I found these two together, and I just wanted to put them in the bucket together because I know it's really rare to get a good picture of two pygmies together in Tennessee. So it was actually the first time it's going to be like a mating courtship is going to be recorded in Tennessee. So it was worth taking the picture and putting it in the bucket.
I got to see it.
Yeah.
I could tell you were pretty excited about this, Amy.
Yeah.
Oh, it was cool. I mean, where else are you going to go? Sometimes with this job, where else do you get to experience it? Spent all those years in law enforcement, and it was pretty much targeted one thing, enforcement. And now in this job, I'm doing all kinds of studies, and it's fun.
Yeah.
The turtles and now the snakes. See what the spring brings.
See what comes up next.
Yeah.
I had one other question. I forgot what it was. I'm going to flip to this next picture. Oh, I know what it was. If you're listening on the radio, we thank y'all for tuning in. But if you want to see these pictures, go to our website and tnwildlife.org or Facebook or YouTube, our YouTube channel, and watch this episode and see these pictures of these snakes. It's really cool to see.
And there's the one that was in the grass.
Yep.
It's just neat to see it in a different habitat.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool when you look at a species like this that has such a unique coloration. And you see on the contrast against the green, it really shows you that this species can be cryptic in the right type of habitat. But if you look at it like in this green habitat, you'd be like, why was it there? So it's really interesting to see that these species can use a multitude of different habitats.
All right. Well, we talked about the ecosystem, why snakes are important to our ecosystem. But what's some other things that snakes bring to the table?
What have what you've learned from these snakes?
Yeah.
So overall, with my entire study, I've caught hundreds of different snakes and all across west central Tennessee. And so I've definitely found especially with the pygmy rattlesnake, I'll just talk about them, that they're a very sedentary species for the main part during the summer. So the hot part of the summer, they won't move that much, and it's really in the early late spring and late spring and late summer is when the times are really you can find these species. That's what we found. But I do think this species is their populations are very disconnected, and their population and like their habitat they can have is very disjunct across the state. So it's not a whole lot of things to look forward to for this species, but there is certain areas where we definitely think there's stronghold populations that we can try to preserve. That's what we mainly found with this species. And another part of my study is we're also checking to see if snake fungal disease is a thing in our snake populations, and so far that has not been found in my study area, which is really positive because that can decimate populations. So,
especially with 14 different species that you found.
Exactly. So, and not because that's if you see a high density of snakes in one area, if the snake fungal disease gets in that area, it could easily just decimate populations. So it's really great that we're finding no presence of it right now. So that's the main findings of our study. So, yeah.
That's good. And I guess that snake fungal disease could affect any snake, right? That's not
any snake. There's definitely
specific.
Yeah, it definitely is prevalent in certain species over others, but definitely it can happen in any species. And actually, with the pygmy rattlesnake, it's actually well documented in Florida. So
now, what are the main predators of the pygmy besides humans? But
I mean, definitely they play an important role as not only as a predator, but as a good prey species as well. Because you have like king snakes, you have birds. And you have things, even like armadillos could probably eat this species because they're so small. Raccoons could eat it. So this species is really important as a prey species as well. Yeah.
Have you ever run into something like that when you're doing on your study, another animal attacking the snake or a snake attacking another animal?
So
the first time, I'm gonna interject here. The first time I went out after he got some and we were tracking them, we were worried that maybe a predator had got one, and we were thinking, no, we should go to that spot where the But anyway, it turns out it was just a equipment failure.
Yeah. So I personally have not found any of my snakes being eaten, but I have come across. Yeah, as soon as I say that's going to happen, but I have seen pictures of king snakes eating copperheads, and that's a very common thing. So I wouldn't be out of the ordinary to totally see that happening, or a bird. If a bird took one of my snakes, I would never hear the transmitter again. It'd just be gone somewhere. Yeah. So it would be sad, but again, it's just natural processes. Yeah.
And these snakes, the pygmies, their main diet. What's their diet like?
Yeah. So since they're so small, when they're very young, they mainly eat insects, and then as they get bigger, they predominantly eat amphibians and lizards. And if they get really big, they can get a small mammal, but mainly amphibians and small lizards and insects are the three main things they eat.
And big is, what was that one male that y'all?
Yeah, so we unfortunately, one of our first year in 2017, we had a very large pygmy. It was actually a male that was run over, and it was the largest pygmy we've ever found in Tennessee. And that pygmy could have been considered a decent-sized timber, and it could have probably eaten a small mammal. But we have never found a pygmy as big as that one ever again. So,
and how big was that again?
150 grams. So to put that into like perspective, the biggest pygmy we found this year was only 76 grams, so over double the size of any of the ones we found.
Wow!
So that was a big snake, and it was very sad to see it run over. But
are you? You said you ran across all 4 venomous snakes on your study. Are you impressed by these other species and how they looked while you were out there? I know you weren't specifically studying those, but
yeah, definitely. I've found more copperheads than any other snake. I found over 70 copperheads, which is ridiculous, but it's good data. But so yeah, copperheads are really abundant. They're a very generous species. I found maybe 5 to 10 timbers, and that's probably common. And then a few cottonmouths, and the only places I find cottonmouths are near rivers, which obviously because they're semi-aquatic, so not as many as them. And then yeah, pygmy obviously I found 16. So overall, we were able to detect a good amount of each one.
And this study was mainly in West Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I guess you could probably take some of that data and compare it, or take that data and be able to almost make an estimate of what we'd see across the state, or would you see more of one species than the other, you think?
So definitely, it's hard to do that because Tennessee is very diverse.
Right, yeah.
And different elevations, and obviously the pygmy rattlesnake, again, is really restricted, so obviously they can only habitat's only in one area. But the copperhead and the timber, you can probably use the same habitat across the board.
And living in Jackson for the last 18, 19 years, I've seen multiple copperheads. Never seen a timber rattler. Yeah. And I've, of course, seen abundant amounts of cottonmouths. But those are and of course, I'd never seen a pygmy until I went with Shawn. So, I mean, that's what I always see were the copperheads. I think I saw more copperheads than I did cottonmouths. So,
yeah, growing up, I've seen some copperheads in East Tennessee, and timbers way up in the upper East Tennessee.
That's where I saw all my rattlesnakes. I've not seen any in West Tennessee.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of black snakes around the house, but that's about all I've seen around my area.
Those are the best kinds of
Yeah,
snakes.
that's what I was going to say. Those are the good ones.
I'll let them go. I promise. Yeah, let's reiterate this. It's illegal to kill snakes in Tennessee. It's illegal to take snakes.
Yes.
There's 4
Venomous.
The cottonmouth, the water moccasin, the timber rattler, the pygmy, and the copperhead. Those are the 4 that's in Tennessee, and Tennessee is the only state that
Actually protects the pygmy because of their threatened status in Tennessee.
Yeah. So this is all awesome information. It's a very interesting study. I wish I could have went with you.
Yeah, I've actually had a couple coworkers go, when's he going again? Because I want to go. I'm like, come on, we'll go.
Is there anything else you want to say or
Final take-home message for snakes?
Yeah. So my biggest thing whenever I talk to my friends or anybody, I say snakes are not out to get you. They are not going to chase you. They are not going to be aggressive. You are actually more likely to be killed by a wild dog than you are by a venomous snake. So that's important to keep in mind. And overall, this, like Amy was saying, snakes are extremely important to the ecosystem. So like I always look at the whole ecosystem as like a trophic scale, like a pyramid. If you take out one layer, it's all going to fall and collapse the whole structure. So they play a huge role. And it's very important that we see them as an important species, like on the same level as like a deer. I know deer are very important to people in their need to eat. I think it's important that we see them as a similar species because if they didn't have a role here, they wouldn't be here to begin with. So that's the biggest thing. So these snakes are really important, and if we lose them, we could cause a very big change to our whole overall ecosystems.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.
I can't wait till they come back out.
I can tell you're really passionate about it.
We're going to be back. We're tracking them down.
Yeah. And we appreciate you coming and being a part of our show and introducing us to the pygmy. This has been awesome information for me.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me.
So good luck in your studies. Good luck here on out. Sounds like you got quite a bit of stuff ahead of you. So
yeah, a lot of stuff.
Congratulations on that. But anyway, Amy, thanks for being with us today.
Anytime.
Coming in from West Tennessee, we are in Nashville today, but talking about West Tennessee pygmy rattlers. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to the show or watch the show, go watch it. If you're on the radio, go watch the show. And
there are some good photos on there.
Yeah, a lot of good photos. So thanks for tuning in. This is Tennessee WildCast, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks, Shawn.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.